It's all yours. No. I know we were talking about something else back there, but we're not gonna.
We were, yeah.
What can you tell us about this ISIS raid in Syria?
Yeah, so I think you saw Central Command put a statement out that last night U.S. military and SDF partnered forces conducted a helicopter raid against an ISIS senior leader, a man named Hamza al-Hamzi. And he was overseeing the group's deadly terrorist network in eastern Syria before he was killed in the raid. As the Pentagon has reported, an explosion during the raid also resulted in 4 U.S. troops and 1 other working dogs suffering some injuries. The troops and the working dog are in stable conditions, are being treated at a U.S. military facility, U.S. medical facility in Iraq, and I think the Pentagon will have more information on that.
Had you seen a story in Aviation Week that an Illinois hobby club feels like their balloon might have been a candidate for the balloon shot a week ago?
Yeah, we just can't confirm those reports or what the remains of that balloon might actually end up being, and we haven't recovered it, so it's very difficult till you can get your hands on something to be able to tell. And because of where it is over Lake Huron, I mean, we all have to accept the possibility that we may not be able to recover it.
But an anecdote like this, does it make any sort of reconsideration of perhaps this was an overreaction at any point over the past week?
So the short answer to your question is absolutely not. Given the situation we were in, the information available, the recommendation of our military commanders, it was exactly the right thing to do at exactly the right time. Now, going forward, and you heard the President talk about this yesterday, we're going to make sure we've got some new rules in place for how we make decisions in future circumstances. Yeah. That doesn't mean, and it doesn't mean, and you heard the President say this yesterday, it doesn't mean that there won't be additional shoot-downs if he believes there's a legitimate threat to our safety and security. But it does mean that we're going to put a new set of parameters on the decision-making process going forward.
Will the American public eventually find out what these 3 unidentified objects are, including which companies they belong to or which specific benign purposes they had?
We would like nothing better, but I can't sit here and promise you that we'll get to that level of fidelity of detail. A lot of it's going to depend on an ability to recover these 3 objects. And just to remind you, one's on sea ice in north of Alaska in Arctic conditions, extremely bad winter weather up there. They have not been able to really mount anything on the ice to find them now. The other's in the Yukon Territory, thick wilderness, and as of today, I don't believe the Royal Canadian Mounted Police or their investigative organizations have been able to get to it. And then the other one fell over Lake Huron, again in very deep water. I think the Canadians have decided that they're not going to look for it anymore. I don't believe that the United States has made a call on that yet. So pretty tough conditions, going to be very difficult to find them, let alone once you find that debris, be able to do the forensics to identify it. So I can't promise you that we'll know definitively one way or the other.
And related to President Xi and that call with President Biden as well, have tensions cooled enough to where the two leaders could jump on the phone together right now?
There is an open line of communication, and I'm not denying that there aren't still tensions, particularly in the wake of the spy balloon. We don't believe it's the appropriate time right now for Secretary Blinken to travel to Beijing, and you heard the President that he will want to have another conversation with President Xi, as you might expect that he would, but we don't have anything on the schedule right now, and we'll have to do that at the time when the President believes it's appropriate. What's really important here, and I know the question was about President Biden and President Xi, is that the lines of communication with the PRC remain open. I recognize that there are tensions, but Secretary Blinken still has an open line of communication with the foreign minister. We still have an embassy in Beijing with a terrific ambassador, Nick Burns, and the State Department also can communicate directly with the PRC's embassy personnel here. So the lines are open. Unfortunately, the military lines aren't open. And that's really what we would like to see amended. And it was, of course, curtailed after Speaker Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. No apologies here. You make the best decisions you can with the information you have.